Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants and to another year of picking and predicting the Oscars. So, last year, for the first time, I made a video about the Oscars that I actually liked enough to not delete about a month later. So, that video's still up, so if you're curious about my picks and predictions last year, and you want to go watch that, I'll have that linked right there, and you can see how my picks actually went pretty well, including some clips that I ended up cutting. I went 12 of 15 last year, so this year, there's some pressure to live up to that reputation, so I'm going to try my best to not only give my opinions, but also let you know what I think actually will happen in the Oscars. Let's just jump right into it. I'm going in the order that's listed on the website, which is just alphabetical. It's not the order that's going to be presented in during the ceremony, but I don't know what that order is, so I'm just going by the list on the website. So first up, we have actor in a leading role. The nominees for that are Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth. So first off, just right away, my pick would be Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal in that. I thought he was funny. I thought he was witty. I thought that he was able to embody a real person so well. He also was able to sing, even though he'd never really done that before in his career. So I thought he was phenomenal, and I totally think he deserves the Oscar. However, I don't think he will get it. I think actually Will Smith will get it, who also I think would be deserving of it, if not for Andrew Garfield, but I think he did a wonderful job also representing a real living person, or somebody that had lived. Andrew Garfield's character's dead. But regardless, the other options, Javier Bardem, nothing really special there to me, honestly. Benedict Cumberbatch, if you watch my channel, you know I didn't think his performance was remotely good. Same thing with Denzel Washington. It's weird that this year should be weaker than last year's Oscars, but they really feel like there are less good options, not just in this category, but as we go through, I'll keep pointing out, the options aren't that strong. So really there's only two genuine contenders this year. And like I said, Andrew Garfield, I think, deserves to win and does have a good chance of winning, but ultimately I think it will go to Will Smith. But either one, it's a toss-up, but I'm pretty sure Will Smith will win. Next up is actor in a supporting role, and the candidates are Ciara Hinds for Belfast, Troy KOTSUR for Coda, Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos, KODI SMIT-MCPHEE for The Power of the Dog, and my personal addition for who I think should win, wasn't nominated, but I think it's a shame that they weren't, is Woody Norman for Come On, Come On. That's who I would pick. Like I just said, not an actual nominee, but that's who I would pick. If I was forced to pick one of the candidates, I would go with KODI SMIT-MCPHEE. I think he will actually end up winning. I thought he did pretty well. Once again, not a huge fan of any of these candidates. I always like J.K. Simmons, and I wouldn't mind him winning. I always like Jesse Plemons, and I wouldn't mind him winning, but I didn't think any of these candidates really wowed me this year. But honestly, I think KODI SMIT-MCPHEE will win for his performance in The Power of the Dog. And like I said, Woody Norman from Come On, Come On, he should have been at least nominated. That kid was amazing. He acted well beyond his years. Come On, Come On in general was just completely snubbed from the Oscars this year, and I don't know why. It really deserved at least a couple of nominations and was completely ignored. It wasn't fair. Next up, we have actress in a leading role, and the nominees are Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. Now, of these candidates, I would choose Kristen Stewart for Spencer, but honestly, once again, I would go off this list if I was just picking any performance this year, and I'd pick Jodie Comer from The Last Duel. There was a ton of Oscar buzz when that movie came out. Part of why I saw it was because of the Oscar buzz surrounding her. People saying that she was a shoo-in to win the Oscar, and here she is not even nominated. I didn't know if I should put her in leading actress or supporting actress, but either way, she should have been nominated at least. I think she was phenomenal, and I'm surprised she wasn't because so many people were talking about it, but here we are now, Oscar season, and she's not even nominated. But anyway, back to the list. Kristen Stewart, I think, did really well, and I think that she does stand a good chance of being the winner, but I think even better, chance is Nicole Kidman for being the Ricardos. Do I think she deserves it? Not really. I would pick both Kristen Stewart and Jessica Chastain above her, and all three of them have a good chance of winning. All three of them are playing characters based on real people, I believe. I could be wrong about Nicole Kidman's character, but regardless, all of them are playing characters that could garner them an Oscar, but I think Nicole Kidman will end up winning, regardless of how I feel about that personally. Next up is Actress in a Supporting Role, and the nominees are Jessie Buckley for The Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog, and AUNJANUE ELLIS for King Richard. And this is, once again, what we're talking about when I was mentioning it in the actors category. There is not really any good nominees here. And it's not entirely the Oscars' fault. I was racking my brain trying to find another good supporting actress candidate, and there weren't really. There was no supporting actress performances this year that really stood out to me at all. So it's not entirely their fault. That's just how the movies kind of flowed this year. They were written that way and performed that way. There's just no great supporting actress roles this year. But who I believe will win is Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. I believe she already won the Golden Globe. She's really the only option to me, so I would pick her as well. I didn't really get wowed by her performance or anybody's performance, but I do believe that she would be the best and would deserve it if she won. Next up is Animated Feature Film, and we have as the nominees Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, as I say every year and all the time, this category is for Disney and Pixar. They're the only ones that ever win this, except for the occasional Shrek. So really, we can throw out Flea, we can throw out The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Neither of them are realistically going to win. Of course, now that I say that, I may have jinxed it, and they will, but I really doubt that they will. And so we've got Encanto, Luca, both by Pixar, and then Raya and the Last Dragon. Raya and the Last Dragon was put out so early in the year that I don't believe that even Disney thought that it would win, so I don't think it really stands a chance. Similarly with Luca, it was kind of put out quietly. There was a much bigger deal, I felt, made about Encanto, so it really feels like Encanto's going to win, and I think it will. I personally would say that Luca was better. I think Luca deserves it more, and I think it does have a chance to win. I think it's probably the second option behind Encanto, but I really do believe that Encanto will win. But it will be between those three, most likely Encanto, maybe Luca, but probably Encanto. Next up, we've got cinematography, and the nominees are Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. I know that it's kind of the obvious thing to say, but Wes Anderson probably should be up here. It's kind of like how Alfred Hitchcock never got nominated for Best Director, or won Best Director, I mean. Wes Anderson's movies should always be nominated for Best Cinematography. They should be, and I would pick The French Dispatch to have won Best Cinematography this year if it was an option, but it's not there because the Oscars don't seem to care. It's like, you know, Bill Belichick should win Coach of the Year every year, but when they're that great, they really don't get noticed. So, yeah, The French Dispatch wasn't even nominated. It should have been, but regardless, going with these options, I would probably pick The Tragedy of Macbeth for my choice. The cinematography had very cool imagery. Like I mentioned in my first thoughts of that movie, it kind of felt cheap. You could always tell that they were on a set, so that kind of makes me not want to vote for it. But The Power of Dog didn't wow me. It was very basic scenery shots with CGI mixed in there. Nightmare Alley, honestly, pretty bad cinematography. Nothing good about that at all. Dune, nothing memorable about that CGI either. West Side Story was pretty darn good. They had some pretty technical tricks that they did. Spielberg went all out with like doing these crane shots and stuff. So I think that maybe should win. It's between Tragedy of Macbeth and West Side Story for me. I just went with Macbeth because it was more memorable, but honestly, West Side Story was probably more technically proficient. But between them, and then honestly, I could see the Oscars picking The Power of Dog to win, or Dune. Honestly, any of these but Nightmare Alley. Nightmare Alley won't win. I really don't know which is going to win. People seem to think The Power of Dog is going to win. I don't think it should. So I'll just go ahead and say West Side Story. I don't know if it will, but that's just my pick, my prediction. Next up, we have costume design. And the nominees are Cruella, Cyrano, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. Now, for me, the obvious pick, I think, is Cruella. I thought that they had a lot of fun with costume design in that movie. I thought that it looked great, so I think that it should win, and I also think that it will. But, as always, the Oscars love period pieces when it comes to costume design. So West Side Story has a strong chance to win as well. I think it's between them, but I do honestly think that Cruella will win because they had more fun things to do with the costumes. So I think it probably will win. But yeah, West Side Story could win. Dune could win, but probably won't either. Next up, we have Best Director, and the nominees are Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. I would once again like to add in my own nominee here, because I would pick Mike Mills for Come On, Come On. Once again, that movie was phenomenal, should have been nominated for more things. That's my pick. But of these, oh, don't make me pick. I'll be honest, didn't see Drive My Car, so I can't really talk about that. So I'm excluding that from when I say the rest of this directing is meh. Paul Thomas Anderson is a great director. He directed Licorice Pizza very well. In clear conscience, I can't really pick it for anything because of how I feel morally about that movie. I was disgusted by it, so honestly, he was probably the best director this year, but I can't give my vote to it. Kenneth Branagh for Belfast. It was kind of an artsy-fartsy movie. I know it did similar things to Come On, Come On. I thought Come On, Come On did it much better and more authentically, so I kind of just am not impressed by Belfast. Jane Campion didn't do anything to impress me in The Power of the Dog, so I'm kind of just left with Steven Spielberg. I would pick him for that, I guess. It wasn't his best movie, wasn't close to it. His directing was pretty pedestrian, in my opinion, for that movie, but that would be, of these options, my pick. And he's probably gonna win, or actually, honestly, you know what? Jane Campion's probably gonna win. And I don't think she deserves it, but that's a very Oscars thing to do, is to give it to her. So she's probably gonna win. It'll be between the two of them. I wouldn't be shocked either way, but it's probably Jane Campion, followed closely by Steven Spielberg. That's how I view it. Next up, we have film editing. And the nominees are Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, The Power of the Dog, and Tick, Tick, Boom. Yeah, none of these movies have interesting editing. I don't know how any of these movies were really made compelling by their editing. I don't know why these are the nominees when we had movies like The Last Duel, which the editing in that was phenomenal. Once again, I would pick that to win. I think it deserves it. I think it should have been at least nominated. I don't know why The Last Duel was completely forgotten about by Oscar season, but it was, and I think it should have won. So The Last Duel I would put as my pick, but as far as my prediction, I think probably Dune is going to win. Because Dune is one of those movies that's going to get nominated for a lot of things and not really win anything important, so they're going to kind of give it the lesser Oscars, if you will. And right now, you might be offended, like, how dare you call film editing a lesser Oscar? That's how the Oscars view it. They don't view it as important. They view it as a throwaway Oscar. Hence why it's not even being televised this year. They're going to tweet about it or whatever. So film editing is kind of one of those things that they give to good, not great movies just to say, hey, it got an Oscar. Not my opinion, that's how they do it. So they're probably going to give it to Dune, even though the editing in that movie was literally just normal editing. There wasn't anything special about it at all. But, I mean, Don't Look Up, what was special about that editing? King Richard, The Power of the Dog, Tick, Tick, Boom, none of that had creative editing at all. I mean, Tick, Tick, Boom is probably the most creative of that bunch, but I don't think it's going to get the Oscar. I think they'll give it to Dune, honestly. So yeah, Oscars are kind of dumb. That's just how it works. Anyway, up next is international film, and the nominees are Drive My Car, Flea, The Hand of God, Lunana, The Yak in the Classroom. Sounds great. Haven't seen it, but it sounds really interesting. And The Worst Person in the World. So, I haven't seen any of these, I'll be honest, but I think based on knowing how the Oscars work. If the movie's nominated for any other Oscars, that means it's going to win Best International Feature, so Drive My Car is going to win, most likely. I know The Worst Person in the World was also nominated, and honestly, it sounds like a more interesting movie to me. I've heard more about that, and I'm more interested in seeing that, so I wouldn't be surprised if that won, but realistically, I think Drive My Car is going to win. I should see both of them, and I probably will. I've been very busy with other projects, so I haven't gotten around to them yet, but I will watch both of them. I'm sure both are very good, but I believe Drive My Car will win. Next up, we have Makeup and Hairstyling, and the nominees are Coming to America, Cruella, Dune, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and House of Gucci. So, I would probably pick Cruella again, because the makeup and hairstyling in that was fascinating, and I loved it. But for the Oscars, they care more about realistic fat people. They love when they put somebody in fat makeup. That is a thing that they love for some reason. And I understand why. It's very difficult to make it look realistic. So honestly, the Oscar will fall to either The Eyes of Tammy Faye or House of Gucci. And because The Eyes of Tammy Faye was a better movie, generally, that's the general consensus, than House of Gucci, they'll probably give it to the better movie. Then again, you know, Suicide Squad won, like, best costume or something, best makeup or something like that, because they just wanted to give an Oscar to a really bad movie. So I wouldn't be altogether shocked. I can see the memes now of best makeup and hairstyling, and then there's a picture of Jared Leto. I could see that, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. So that is a strong bet to make. But I do think that The Eyes of Tammy Faye will win. But it's between the two, honestly. And then Cruella is a strong third. I mean, after that, Coming to America, yeah, they had, you know, the Eddie Murphy thing where he dresses up as multiple characters. But, I mean, it's a comedy. People don't care about makeup in comedies. And then Dune, the makeup wasn't anything special in that. So, yeah, those are the three options. But realistically, two options are Eyes of Tammy Faye and House of Gucci, and between those two, it's probably Tammy Faye. Next up, we have Original Score, and the nominees are Don't Look Up by Nicholas Britell, Dune by Hans Zimmer, Encanto by Germaine Franco, Parallel Mothers by Alberto Iglesias, and The Power of the Dog by Johnny Greenwood. And I think the obvious choice here is Dune by Hans Zimmer. That soundtrack was so beautiful, so wonderfully made. Blew everything out of the water this year. It's just so freaking good. Second choice, as far as the Oscars go, if that doesn't win for whatever reason, I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Encanto won, but I don't think it will. I think Dune will genuinely just win. I think it really will. Also, Power of Dog could win. It's got one of those sappy kind of soundtracks, but really it's between Dune and Encanto, and I think Dune will win. Next up, we have Best Original Song, and the nominees are Be Alive by Dixon and Beyonce, Das Ariquitas by Lin-Manuel Miranda, I probably butchered that, I'm sorry, Down to Joy by Van Morrison, No Time to Die by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, and Somehow You Do by Diane Warren. And my pick is No Time to Die. I thought that was a very good song. I thought it was a very good Bond song, as well as just good pop song. Like, you could hear that on the top 40 stations regularly. And usually when that happens, that a made-for-movie song gets put on the radio, it's going to win the Oscar. Like, I mean, how often does that happen? The answer is not very often. So that usually means that that's going to win. You know, I think Adele won when she did her Bond movie song as well. And so likewise, I think Billie Eilish will win for that. But I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Beyonce gets hers or Lin-Manuel Miranda gets his. But probably No Time to Die. I'm just going to go ahead and put that as my pick and prediction. Next up, we have Best Picture, the most important Oscar of them all. And the nominees are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Now, guess what I'm going to pick? None of those! I'm going once again with Come On, Come On. Should have been nominated. It was a great movie. Deserved it. Didn't get it. Don't know why. But yeah, that would be my pick. As far as the actual nominees, let's just go through them. Belfast, I already said, not a huge fan. I thought it was fine. Coda, same thing, didn't care. Don't Look Up, thought was a bad movie. Drive My Car, haven't seen yet. Dune, pretty unremarkable. I know that it's not really fair to say it was like bad or slow or boring, because the best way to equate it is like, I've said this before, but like, you watch Star Wars A New Hope, but then turn off the movie when they get to the cantina scene. You didn't see anything yet. It's just like a big tease. It's like a trailer for the next movie. So it's like, is that a best picture? I have no idea. I need to see what the rest of the franchise looks like before I say if this movie's good or not. So, no, I can't say that's a best picture. King Richard was fine. Licorice Pizza, already said, can't say anything positive about that in my mind. Nightmare Alley, I enjoyed more than the rest of the movies on this list, honestly. But is it best picture quality? No, it's not also best picture type. The Oscars have a very specific type, and this doesn't fit that type at all. This isn't a La La Land, although La La Land didn't win best picture, but you know, it's not artsy enough to be best picture. It would be like if a Marvel movie won. It just doesn't make sense. And then The Power of the Dog, not a great movie, and West Side Story. This, to me, honestly comes down to The Power of the Dog and West Side Story, as far as what's going to win the Oscar. I know I was going to say which one I would pick between all of these, and I would probably have to pick Nightmare Alley, but I'm abstaining my vote, really, I don't care. But yeah, as far as the Oscars, they're going to pick The Power of the Dog or West Side Story. I know that people are saying The Power of the Dog is going to win, but I don't think it's going to. I think West Side Story is going to, but it could be either one or the other. All of these don't make sense. Like, when I envision the future and I envision, looking back on these Oscars, none of these sound like the best picture. I can't, make myself talk about it in the past, and it's like, oh, you remember when The Power of the Dog won best picture? It's like, no, because whichever one of these wins, nobody's going to be talking about it like it's a best picture. It will be like when whatever beat La La Land won. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but that's the whole point, is it's going to be one of those, that it wins Best Picture and everybody forgets about it. Because if West Side Story wins, nobody even went to see that in the first place. And if The Power of the Dog wins, nobody really seems to think that that's a good movie, except critics are obsessed with it for whatever reason. Probably, honestly, because Jane Campion directed it, and we need to tout female directors right now. That's the thing this year, I'm assuming, in the Oscars. So yeah, none of them were that great. None of them were that great, but I think The Power of the Dog's gonna win. But hopefully West Side Story wins, because it's not a great movie, but it's better than the other options. Next up, we have Sound, and the nominees are Belfast, Dune, No Time to Die, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Once again, I didn't really feel like Sound really was that impactful in any of these. I mean, you could say West Side Story because it was a musical, so if it won, I wouldn't be surprised. But ultimately, I think the most impactful probably was Dune. I think its soundtrack was interwoven into the movie the most, and I know that's soundtrack, not sound, but when people don't have anything like, last year we had the Deaf Drummer movie, I forget what it's called, but that movie, the sound was important to that movie. The sound isn't that important to any of these other movies in the way that was. So probably we're just going to choose the winner based on how well the soundtrack interacted with the movie. I know that's stupid, but that's probably how we're going to do it. So Dune is probably going to win. I could see, like I said, West Side Story winning as well, because it is a musical, so therefore the sound has greater impact on the movie. So Dune or West Side Story, probably Dune though. Next up, we have visual effects, and the nominees are Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Oscar nominated Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, no. So throw out the two Marvel movies, because they're not going to win. Throw out No Time to Die, because that's not going to win. What were the special effects in that were that special? Free Guy, honestly, is the closest thing to even come to Dune in this category. Dune will win. There's no contest. Dune has already been chosen. That is the winner. That one. Just letting you know right now, that one. Free Guy is the only one that even comes close, and it's not even really close. Calling it close, it's just closer to Dune than Spider-Man is to it, but they're still light years apart. It's funny that we even had 2 MCU movies nominated. It's a joke. It's a freaking joke. Anyway, next up we have Writing Adapted Screenplay, and the nominees are Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, and The Power of the Dog. I'm picking a movie that's not here again. I'm sorry I'm doing that so much this year, but the Oscar nominees are weird this year. Like, The Last Duel really should have gotten multiple nominations, and it didn't get any. The Last Duel should win Best Adapted Screenplay. That screenplay was phenomenal. I thought it was fantastic. As far as which one I would pick from this category, I wouldn't. I was gonna try to pick one, and Dune was just too boring for me to pick it, so I can't get excited about it. The Power of the Dog wasn't well written. Drive My Car I haven't seen yet. That's probably going to end up being my pick once I see it. I would expect it to be, based on everything I've heard about it, I would think that it would be the best, but I haven't seen it yet. So, I mean, none of these are my pick. But if I'm predicting what's going to win, I could see Drive My Car winning. I could also see The Power of the Dog winning for some stupid reason. So probably one of them, maybe even Coda, but I don't think Dune will win. I really don't think The Lost Daughter will win. So if I had to rank it in most likely, I would say Drive My Car, The Power of the Dog, and Coda. And all 3 of them could win. It's a bit of a crapshoot. None of these options are that great, honestly. And then next up, we actually have the last category, which is Best Original Screenplay. And the nominees for that are Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World. And I couldn't pick one. I didn't pick one. And then I was trying to think of any screenplay that I would pick. And, you know, like, I kept saying Come On, Come On was so good, but I really don't feel like the screenplay was what made it good. So I also thought about maybe Mass. I could pick Mass. You know what? Screw it. I will. Mass is my pick. I think Mass should win Best Screenplay, Best Original Screenplay. But of these options, Belfast, Don't Look Up was bad. King Richard, unremarkable. Licorice Pizza was about pedophilia. And The Worst Person in the World I haven't seen yet. So my guess for actual winner would be The Worst Person in the World, I think, has a strong chance of winning. But I also think Licorice Pizza has a strong chance of winning because the screenplay is what made that movie good. Because, I mean, nothing about it was all that remarkable, except for the writing and directing. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's like the story itself wasn't really good. The writing of the story was good. The directing was good. But the story wasn't good, the cinematography wasn't anything special, the editing wasn't anything special, the music wasn't anything special, the actors were fine, the characters were bad. So it's like, yeah, I mean, the writing and directing is a lot, but it's only like half of a movie, really. So, yeah, I'm going with The Worst Person in the World or Licorice Pizza. One of those two. I don't know. One of those. So, there you have it. Those were my picks and predictions for the 2022 Oscars. But what do you guys think? Do you think that I'm right? Or do you think something else will or should win? What do you think should win Best Picture? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.